So I'm Ahmad Hamzawi. I head up the engineering team at Google for the Middle East and Africa. And I've got about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to walk you through a set of slides that cover some stats about MENA that some of you may not actually know about. So every slide I'm going to have a lot of data that I'm going to share with you. So if I go too fast, just slow me down, and hopefully we can catch up. So just to give you a quick rundown of some high-level interesting stats about MENA today. The first one is around Google searches per day. Can anybody in the room guess how many searches we get a day across all of the MENA countries? How many? 20? 20 million? 60 million? 200 million? Okay, I'll put it into context. There are 4 billion across the world. Does that help you? Okay, so the magic number is 100, okay? So there are 100 million queries every day across all the MENA countries. That's a pretty staggering number. The next metric I want to show you is how many new Facebook users there are every day in MENA. How about this guess? 50,000? 100,000, wow, okay. So the magic number is 36,000. And this is as of December 2010. Next one is around YouTube video playbacks per day. So this is another interesting metric, and we're going to talk more about YouTube a little bit later on. But the interesting metric here is that it's 100 million also every day. And if you just look at the stats between Google searches and YouTube playbacks, you see they're one-to-one. So what does that tell you? For every search that a user does in MENA, they're also watching a video. Pretty powerful number. The next one is around the hours of YouTube videos uploaded per minute. Okay, and this is again just for MENA. So you might have heard the global number we've mentioned before in previous talks. This is the first time you're going to see a number for just the MENA region. So the number across the world is 35 hours of video uploaded per minute on YouTube. What do you think it is for MENA? What is it? 5,000? 5,000 what? No, this is number of hours. Okay, you're not paying attention. All right. All right, so the magic number, if this thing works, is 1. Okay? So it's still a pretty good number, actually. It's 1 hour of video uploaded to YouTube every minute on YouTube. Now, if you just look at the ratios, we saw for YouTube video playbacks, that's 100 million. And I didn't mention the global number. The global number is 2.5 billion. Okay? Video playbacks every day. And the other number I mentioned was 35 globally for uploaded versus 1. So what you can see already is that users, of course, consume a lot more YouTube content than they're producing. Something to think about. I'm going to switch over and talk about search now very quickly. So what I want to just mention here very quickly on this slide is if we actually look at overall search engine usage and we slice it by category, what you'll see, not surprisingly, is at the bottom here you've got news, images, music, and video as the top categories of content that users are actually after on search engines. I'll show you another interesting graph right here, and this comes from our own logs, which looks at user search behavior. And what we did here is compared it to other markets, just to give you an apples-to-apples comparison here. We looked at Poland and the United Kingdom. What you'll see, for example, is that these three here are quite interesting. You'll notice news, online communities, and sports here are more than double the other markets. And in fact, if you look at news, it dwarfs the other two markets. So that shows that there's a big thirst for information in these specific categories. And conversely, what we have on the far side of the chart here are those that there actually is not a lot of content, nor are there a lot of people searching for this data. So you see there's a huge opportunity in business and local. There isn't a lot of data out there. People aren't necessarily searching for it. It's, of course, this vicious circle, in addition to a very distinct lack of health queries and health content. So we're going to switch over now and talk about what specific users are doing online. So can anybody guess what the top non-Google site is all the way from January till about last week across all of MENA? In other words, what is the website that users have been going to the most from Google? Al Jazeera? Any other guesses? Facebook. Facebook is not surprisingly number 1. Okay, can anybody guess what the second one is? YouTube is a Google property, so it's not included. Microsoft? Okay, anything else? Yahoo? Okay. Twitter? No. Okay, so the answer, I'm going to show the rest. I'm going to show through to 10 right now, and the answer is Maktub. Okay? So you probably didn't know this actually, and this is, just so you know, this is a roll-up of all the domains, subdomains under maktub.com. So it's not just the main website. And if you look at the list here, you'll see Wikipedia, of course, number 3. You'll notice a bunch of game sites. There's a download site in here. Al Jazeera, it's a little bit cut off. That's number 7. And then Hotmail, number 8. And then a chat site. And then, of course, sports. So these are what users are actually going to across MENA. The next thing I want to show you is just the top-level queries out of Egypt. And we'll go through some other countries. So you can just see here very quickly. There's Al'ab, Facebook, Sawar, Aflam, and so on and so forth. You can see for Saudi Arabia, somewhat similar. People are searching for YouTube. And by the way, the reason why they search for YouTube bil Arabi is that they don't know how to type YouTube in English, so they type it into Arabic, and the first result is youtube.com. And you can see the rest of the results here. And then I thought I'd throw in Lebanon here for good measure, and this is over the last 12 months. And surprisingly, I'm not sure why they're searching for Lebanon as the top query. Kind of odd, bas yalla. And then they're looking for lyrics, wahub, number 7. Interesting data to show. So, by the way, everything I'm showing you here is public data, at least the stuff on the right here. You can go to Google Insights for search, and you can look at all of this great data for any country you'd like. Okay? With that, I'll move over to talking about the population. So this is another interesting trend you should be thinking about. So what I did here is I used a product that we have also called Gapminder, and this will basically allow you to track population and various international statistics and graph it for you visually. So I don't have the animation here for this presentation, but I just stopped it at 2011, which is right now. And what you'll see basically is that the average age is hovering right around 25 across MENA, which is very low. And if you look at these countries in red, the UK and the US, it's much higher. So you need to consider that when you're considering advertising, creating applications and websites, that this is actually an important number. Your population is very young. Then I'm going to talk about mobile. So the first statistic I want to show you is the percentage of MENA search queries coming from mobile devices. Can anybody guess what this percentage is? So this is, of course, on google.com across all of our properties. It's going to be web versus mobile. 35? 10? 20? Anything else? Okay, the guy that said 10 was the closest. It's actually 13%. So that's still a significant number, actually, and it's growing. And you can see over here, year-over-year growth, mobile is just going through the roof. It's skyrocketing, 200% growth year-over-year. The next one, of course, is that Saudi Arabia, not surprisingly, they are leading in terms of overall mobile internet growth throughout the region. iOS, so this is iPods, iPads, everything related with the iOS operating system from Apple. That also has grown quite a bit. And I put this in as blank for last year. Can anybody guess what this number is? 500? 1,000? Higher? Higher? 2,000? Close. It's halfway. It's 1,500. Again, another huge metric. So iPhone is, of course, the iOS platform is, of course, growing dramatically. So is BlackBerry, by the way. In terms of overall absolute numbers, the absolute number here is Symbian. Okay, so overall traffic across all of our properties on mobile devices, half of them are coming from Symbian devices. The last metric I want to show you is the number 2 browser outside of the GCC. So can anybody guess what the second browser is outside the GCC? Sorry, this is for mobile. We're speaking specifically about mobile. That's exactly right, Opera Mini. Opera Mini is huge outside of the GCC. So if you're considering also specific campaigns, adoption, having preferred links within the Opera browser, you definitely need to be looking at Opera Mini. And then the last thing, and not too many people are talking about this, is that there are billions of people worldwide that don't have data plans, and for a long time they likely never will. And you have to consider how you're going to reach out to those users. And so don't forget about SMS. There are different technologies that make SMS usage easier, such as USSD, SIM Toolkit. There are different other ways you can reach out to SMS users. So definitely don't forget about this one. And we were actually in Saudi Arabia over the weekend where we had a developer day for 3 days. One of the big announcements we made there was that we had launched YouTube locally in 7 MENA countries, which are the ones here at the bottom. And so this actually just happened very, very recently. The announcement recently went out. The nice thing now is if you go to the bottom of the YouTube page, you can now switch your country to any one of these, and your main page on youtube.com will be localized to that specific country. So you'll see the top videos, you'll see trending videos, and so on and so forth. The nice thing from an advertising perspective is that this is going to pave the way for you to advertise now on YouTube within the region. And some more stats on video. So we obviously know Arabic users, they just love videos. One metric we look at that's really important is the playbacks per query, which is what I showed on the first slide. And there are many countries, actually, if we normalize it by queries, that dominate the top 10 list around the world. If you look at Saudi Arabia is in the top 3 mobile playbacks, absolute number across the world. If we normalize this by the internet user population, Saudi jumps to number 1. And then the other interesting metric I wanted to share with you is that of all the playbacks worldwide, 3% of them are actually originating from MENA. And another slide here on social networks. So of course, Facebook, we all know. How many people here are not on Facebook? Okay, I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So only 5 people here are not on Facebook. So first statistic, this is of course, these are stats from December. What we have is 18.4 million Facebook users across the whole region. That's about a third of the overall internet population across MENA. 36,000 we mentioned before. Facebook itself is very sticky. You see 44% log in at least once a day. And then every 30 days, which is the 30-day active number, 75% log in at least once. And you also notice that the top 3 countries are Egypt, Saudi, and Morocco. And last but not least, I want to kind of state the obvious, which is that Arabic users speak Arabic. So definitely do not, make sure you're considering this as part of your development or your marketing and advertising campaigns. We still see a lot of applications and products being built in English in the region. There should be more in Arabic. The overall population of Arabic speakers worldwide is quite large. 350 million users is your captive audience there. And we've mentioned before, actually, in previous talks, that there's a huge opportunity for high-quality Arabic content. And if we look at content at Google in general, if we look at our overall document corpus, right around a third of all the content we have in Arabic is stuck and buried in forums. And if we compare that to other markets, Arabic dwarfs the closest other language, actually. Fact number 4, over 20% of the overall population, though, speaks English. You have to keep that in mind. And a nice little breakout that I'm showing here is the overall queries on google.com by language. So you see just over half of all queries are done in Arabic, and then around a third in English, French, and other languages. The top 2 for Arabic are Egypt with 70% and Saudi at 80%. And then the top English ones are the United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, Qatar. And then for French, it's Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. And with that, I'm done. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm back. So there's supposed to be a panel right now. Is there anybody here for the panel? Oh, the audience wants to ask questions. Oh, okay, sure. So questions, let's see, right up front here.
With me here. Hello, here.
I don't see you. Oh, there you are.
It's not a question. Can you just share us, is it possible that you share with us the slide that you have shown?
Yes, so I'll be sharing this publicly.
Thanks.
Yes, you'll have access to this for sure. That was an easy question. Whew. Okay, another question right up front here.
Thank you, Ahmad.
You're very welcome.
In light of the importance of Arabic in the region, could you please prioritize to us the key areas where you see Google is spending the next maybe 12, 18 months improving for Arabic content?
Sure. So I'll tell you one thing is that it's very hard for us to think at the scale of or at the length of 12 to 18 months. It's a very dynamic and chaotic company in terms of how we prioritize things. So I can tell you in the short to medium term, one of the areas that we're looking at very closely is, of course, mobile. That's outside of content. That's just another medium. One area that's really important to us is local. So how can we deliver locally relevant content to users? So if you're in Saudi Arabia, you're in Lebanon, and you're looking for a discount airline, for example, you want to be able to search for that in Arabic and find local content there. Same thing with maps. We want to get business listings online. And there's some great companies that are doing some great things in the region around generating business listings. So there are hundreds of thousands of businesses in each of these different countries. Many of them are not online. Many of them don't have websites. So this is another big opportunity for many of the companies, many people that are here actually, to consider working on actually. And we'd be very interested in talking to you about that. Any other questions? The third row here. Just one second, let's get the microphone.
So what I would like to ask is, given that you can see that Arabic is pretty important, can you please elaborate on why so far things like Google phones don't have Arabic support, or things like we can't get market apps on our Google phones that are paid, things like that? Because I mean, if we want to develop that kind of thing, we can't do it right now.
Yep, okay. So the question really is centered around Android. I totally agree with you, by the way. We should do this. We are doing this, and I can tell you that so far, if you look in the market, there is Arabic support for Android across different mobile operators. So they've already done it themselves. So one of the big benefits, of course, with Android, it's a completely open operating system and platform. And if you, for example, you are great at, say, Java development, you can actually build in Arabic support yourself, and even if you want, sell it to a carrier. We've seen this type of fragmentation, though, and this is what's been happening in the market. In fact, I met one of the developers of Arabic Android in Riyadh when we were there, and put him on a panel actually to talk about that. Having said that, what I can tell you is Arabic support is coming. I've actually got a device with some Arabic support on it, so if you want to see it, I've got the Motorola Zoom. So if anybody has not seen the Motorola Zoom tablet, I have it with me here, and I can show you. Same thing goes with Market. We're working very hard on bringing Market to each and every country in MENA.
Hi. Why you don't allow the website to fetch unlimited links and remove their links through webmaster tools?
Can you say that once more? How do we not what?
Fetch their links.
Fetch?
Their links to the Google. Or insert, or remove, maybe I have some links for my website have problems. So I need to remove it from Google. And this is not allowed through
so the question, I want to make sure I understand the question. So your question is, you've got a website, you've got specific links that were crawled, and you want to remove them from the index?
Yes.
Is that the idea? Okay. So that's pretty straightforward, unless I'm misunderstanding your question. You should just, if you own the website, which sounds like you do, you should of course drop those links from your site. You then have to wait for Google to regularly crawl your website. And for different websites, the crawling interval is very different. So if you're a highly trafficked site, for example, you might notice that you're getting crawled more often. If we don't send a lot of traffic your way, you might see that the crawling interval is a little bit less. So what I just ask you to do is remove, of course, your links, and then wait, and then eventually you'll see it drop from our index.
Why you don't allow us to remove it manually?
Yeah, so why don't we allow it to do it manually? So the way it works is the algorithm itself is built on automatically crawling based on specific intervals. If we actually had it doing in the way you're talking about, we'd have this massive never-ending queue of requests to remove links. And so what we'd rather do is actually, depending on, for example, our CPU resources, availability, and so on and so forth, schedule that ourselves in terms of when we actually want to crawl specific websites. And so that's just how it works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I think, I'm sorry, that is the last question. What I would just suggest you do, I'll be around for the rest of the day, so if you'd like to ask me any other questions, I'll be walking around. With that, thank you very much.